Welcome to the Gunning Truth, and it's the podcast on Spotify and iTunes as well as on YouTube. So I'm once again merging the two shows in one, and it's unfortunately been yet another downer for the Arsenal week where it's very likely completely over. Not very likely, it's over already. So, in my opinion, it's been over for quite some time. I think there was a lot of quite a few of us that probably thought in that Nottingham Forest game, that's where things started to go awry. I felt basically second half against Liverpool at Anfield already things were going wrong. But there's going to be another chance to deep dive into what Arsenal needs to do going forward and what actually happened at the back end. I know that Manchester City's form over the years, and also it's prevalent now after the thrashing of Real Madrid in last night's Champions League game. It's just puts into perspective who we're up against at the end of the day. And despite Arsenal's a very good season, you can't say great. There's been no trophies, but there has definitely been improvement on the team. And unfortunately, we just ran out of steam at the end, and it was very prevalent. Minus the fact that we are analyzing the game in certain aspects. One of them being Arsenal obviously knew what took place at Goodson. I personally thought my only hope was not from Arsenal's standpoint, will Arsenal do their job, but Manchester City. And despite the fact that they've had all these games, and what I've actually noticed now, it's actually better to play every 3 days, whereas Arsenal maybe didn't take other competition so seriously and they were out of it quite soon. But yeah, it's such things that I've analyzed over and over and over again, and I don't think there's anything you can do. You can overanalyze, you can criticize, you can call Arsenal bottle jobs. The reality is Manchester City is just that damn good, and we just have to accept it. People that communicates with me from other teams, they seem to just want to tease Arsenal for bottling it, but obviously deep down they know that their teams has had worse seasons. I'm referring to Liverpool fans. I'm referring to very less so Chelsea fans, Spurs fans less so, and then mostly Man United. They are a very loud bunch. Their manager hasn't even made the manager of the season. They seem to really okay. To be fair, I rate Eric Ten Hag. He's now a Man United manager. I'm supposed to despise him, but I do rate him. I've rated him at Ajax, and it just seems that they put this guy on very high regard, the Man United fans, and they are the ones that's actually doing all the teasing. The Liverpool fans are humble. They know their situation. The Chelsea fans are, I don't know, they just quiet. Tottenham fans, I barely know any Spurs fans, despite the fact that it's supposed to be the closest rivals for Arsenal. But it's basically these Man United fans. There's one or two Man City fans popping up, but then you ask them to name a team from 10 years ago and they can't do that. So we know where that comes from. But yeah, at the end of the day, Arsenal's going to finish second. We're in the Champions League. There's more money coming, and now we need to see how that money will be spent. Obviously, players are going to be, well, they're supposed to get higher wages because it's part of their bonus package, especially those that have signed on. And then obviously you need to get that upper echelon player. I'm very weirded out by this whole Xhaka situation because he's not that great of a player. Fantastic 2 seasons from him, so you have to give him his due. Obviously, there was this going theme that since Xhaka has played for Arsenal, we haven't qualified for the Champions League. It's obviously very unfair to blame him, but it's very weird for personal reasons. It seems like he wants to return to Germany, but I think it's probably just because Arsenal are looking to the future, and we probably weren't going to offer him the extended contract that he wanted. So he probably wanted 4 years, and I don't think Arsenal were too keen on that. Maybe 2 years, maybe another added on to the deal that runs out at the end of next season. So he's obviously got 1 year left, and then probably Arsenal were willing to trigger that extension, which gives him 2 more seasons with us. And I'm certain Bayer Leverkusen is going to offer him 3 or 4 years, or 3 years with an option of a fourth. So interesting times ahead. So on the show today, Not gonna go deep dive into the Brighton game. It's done, people. It's over and out. Not even gonna look ahead to Nottingham Forest nor Wolves. I think we just have to accept the fate. We have finished second, and obviously everybody supports the team differently. I'm not going to stop watching. I'm not going to stop analyzing the team. I just feel like we going to look more towards next season, because Arsenal have done their bare minimum, which is wanting to qualify for the Champions League, which they have done probably 2 or 3 games ago already. But yeah, very disappointing the way things ended against Brighton. And I'll obviously just have a look at that. I'm not going to deep dive into it. I'm going to just gloss over it, if you can call it glossing over it. And then obviously our Arsenal women's team, they are still continuing to do well despite all the injuries. There's been a theme from the Arsenal women's standpoint where there's just been injuries galore all over the place. However, they've made sure that they continue to win football games, and that is what's the most important thing. And also showing a bit of fight, which is what I did not see. I saw fight against Newcastle United, and then I don't see any fight against Brighton. I almost thought I spelled thrashed wrong. Oh, interesting. Arsenal news. So, like literally 20 minutes ago, before I started finalizing my slides, it's been confirmed that Aaron Ramsdale has signed a contract extension until 2028. He had 2 years left with the option to extend. So, Arsenal's quite smart with their options. If a player doesn't perform, then they don't trigger the option. But Arsenal were proactive and wanted to reward him for his performances. The most important thing out of Kaya's tweet, Kaya Kanak's tweet, is Arsenal being proactive. There was many instances where they were proactive in the summer, not so much in the winter, because that is when we couldn't get the big deals over the line. But we were proactive in the summer, and it looks like we are ready. Before the season has ended, we are proactive. And I'm pretty certain Bukayo Saka's contract will be announced probably before the Wolves game. And then hopefully we will get the Saliba deal sorted out over the summer. And then I think Odegaard might get an extension on or better terms. I'm not certain if there's anybody else, because the other one would have been Xhaka, but it seems like he is moving on. But awesome news that Aaron Ramsdale has extended. He obviously was more than happy to stay, but Arsenal obviously being proactive and rewarding him for his performances. He has been exceptional. Probably from the 3 top goalkeepers, or 4, Ederson probably made less errors overall. And then, but Aaron Ramsdale's stats, he's been much busier. That's another thing. He cannot be that busy next season. So that's also something that we have to look at from a chance creation, or allowing the opposition so many chances. So maybe that's why he's had to have a great season, because despite the fact that Arsenal's been good, they've conceded loads of chances in games, especially in games that we've dominated and looked comfortable in, and then you still see this team had 1 or 2 other opportunities. So that's all part of the learning curve. But Arsenal being proactive, that is the most important thing. And then today it's been announced the end of season awards. So the official Premier League end of season awards. Manager of the season. Obviously Arteta is there. De Zerbi is there. Well deserved. Unai Emery has been brilliant. We've got Pep Guardiola, who I think will win it now. Eddie Howe's been brilliant, and Silva of Fulham. So all of them well deserved. I don't think Conte is going to should have been on this list, and I don't think Eric 10 out of 10 Haag should be on this list either, nor Graham Potter or Frank Lampard for that matter. So obviously well deserved. My top 3 would probably be Guardiola, and then you have to put Arteta in there, because at the end of the day, obviously the other guys have done brilliantly well, especially De Zerbi and Emery. But you have to put Arteta in there, not because Arsenal have finished second. We did push this fantastic Manchester City team quite a distance. Unfortunately, it's come, and a lot of people predicted it. Unfortunately, and that's also the sad thing about all these pundits that we can't stand, that also predicted it, and we've proven them right. That's probably something that I'm going to take away as my biggest gripe from the season, other than Arsenal not being able to perform for the 38 games. But yeah, I think Arteta deserved second place. Obviously, Pep should get the first position. I can't see why not. And then we've got the play of the season. I'm extremely happy that Odegaard and Saka has made it. In my opinion, neither of them should get play of the season. I thought Odegaard. I think the players' writers or the Writers Football Association. Yeah, the Writers Football Association. I think I'm going to go with those as my top three. The top four was actually Haaland first, Odegaard second, Saka third, and De Bruyne fourth. I would probably go the two Norwegians again, top two, and then possibly De Bruyne third. I thought Saka quite badly fell off at the back end of the season. Obviously, not always his fault. It's not a mentality thing. It could be the fact that it is just fatigue. He's absolutely at the end. And then the young player, very happy to have Odegaard, Saka, and Martinelli there. I would probably give it to, just based on the season that we had, the young squad, any one of those three Arsenal players. I would have them as the young player because Haaland's going to win the player of the season. I don't know if you can give, well, they can do it if they want to. They can give it to Pep and then Haaland player of the season and Haaland young player of the season. They can do that. But just in my opinion, I think Pep, Haaland player of the season, and then Saka or Odegaard. I've actually got them tied. So you can maybe give it to both of them. How about that? Just not out of pity, but they have really performed for Arsenal, and Martinelli has been so dangerous in most games. So there we go. Any one of the three. I can't see the other guys. Caicedo has a chance. Caicedo has a chance, but I do believe that not from a pity standpoint, but just from the good season that Arsenal have had, maybe give one of the Arsenal boys a young player of the season. For me, Odegaard, he still qualifies as a young player, just because I feel he should end second to Haaland in the player of the season nominations. And there we go. Some Arsenal news or further Arsenal news. William Saliba will only return to Arsenal training at the end of June. So we are now heading just past halfway through May. So very disappointing that this guy hasn't even been ruled out for the season yet. And it's being said that the beginning of July he will be back. But it's anyway the off season. Hopefully he will be fully fit for pre-season because Arsenal will not have Tommy Yasso. El Neni's not going anywhere, so El Neni will come in. Zinchenko and hopefully Saliba is ready for at the mid. Well, if he's going to be ready to train at the beginning of July, it's round about the first, second, possibly midway through July where preseason will start, and we need him first day of preseason. Saliba and Zinchenko needs to be there. I think I've got another slide or a little story or a tweet where it says that Tommy Yasso might only make it September. I'm very close to saying it's time to move on from him. I think he's a consistent player. He's a dependable squad player, but we see now Ben White. He's I've been mentioning he's got respiratory problems. It seems like, and he doesn't really last for the 90 minutes. He's had to play the last 10 games since the injury to Tomiyasu and Saliba both got injured against Sporting Lisbon. So we could have had a different situation of even at right centre back. If Tomiyasu was fit, you could have had Ben White, who wouldn't probably be as tired playing right back as playing centre back. So it's quite a big, significant problem, the fact that Saliba and Tomiyasu both got injured in that Sporting Lisbon game. So yeah, if you think about it like that, it's quite major. It could actually be season defining, the fact that Saliba and Tomiyasu both got injured. The way I think about it, it's possible that Arsenal still would have fallen short, even if they were fully fit and raring to go, because of the fact that other players also had fatigue and possibly carrying knocks at the back end of the season. So maybe it probably wouldn't have made a difference, but we would have probably still been pushing City, I feel, if Saliba and Tomiyasu were fit. And then it's been confirmed that Arsenal forward Folarin Balogun has opted to represent USA at international level. That's actually quite cool. So you will be what we call the poster boy for America at the upcoming World Cup. What is it? 2026 World Cup. Yeah, 2026 World Cup in the United States and Canada as well as Mexico. Really look forward to that World Cup. It's going to be awesome. So awesome to see. I don't know what Arsenal's going to do. I would obviously keep Jesus, keep Balogun, and possibly get a different type of a striker in. Obviously, this isn't FIFA, it isn't Football Manager, but Arsenal need to have more goals and maybe a different threat when it comes to their forward line. I think we need one in there. We can have Nelson going, we can have Nketiah going, hopefully, not Balogun, even though I think Arsenal would probably do the business sense and they would probably get more for Balogun and then end up keeping Nketiah and possibly getting someone that can play right forward as well as centre forward. So I think that's what Arsenal are going to do. They're going to get one in for the front line, someone that can play on the right or through the middle. And obviously, Jesus can play on the right as well, just to assist Saka because he cannot play. He's not going to be able to make it next season. So more news, top left. That's the Tomiyasu story. It looks like we are on the hunt for a right fullback because Tomiyasu is struggling to play much before Christmas. So that is December 2023. That's how long this guy is going to be out for. And there might be a desire to sell Kieran Tierney. I don't think there's a desire to sell Kieran Tierney, but I think there's a desire for him to play more football games. I'm a bit concerned about long-term defensive stability when it comes to Zinchenko. Fantastic player on the ball, but I'm worried that we're not going to have a decent backup at left back. So Arsenal's got some decisions to make with regards to our fullback situation. There's quite a lot of talk about this Ivan Fresneda guy, but once again, it's going to be a young player that's going to have to adapt very similar to Vieira. So I'm a little bit concerned. We might need to get, okay, but maybe not because Zinchenko is in that experienced player. But in the back end of the season, his defending has been awful. So can you now get a younger player that needs to adapt that possibly can't defend as well as Kieran Tierney? So now we're looking at a lot of money when it comes to these players. And then obviously I do like the look of Cancelo, but I don't think Manchester City is going to sell to us. They would rather, at a cut price, sell him maybe to a Juventus or somewhere in Italy or possibly somewhere in Spain. I don't think Bayern Munich's going to pay 70 million for Cancelo, and neither will Arsenal for that matter, because we've got other things. And then Arsenal are putting together an offer, 100 million euro offer for Declan Rice. So that's obviously around about 92 million. But West Ham will want as much as possible of that fee paid up front. You can have that. That's all good, West Ham. Come on, you Hammers. Give us your captain. And then Arsenal, I think it's going to be a huge summer. This is now David Ornstein, or Ornstein, as some like to call him. I don't see how that's Ornstein. It's Ornstein. I think it's going to be a huge summer at the Emirates, and they look like they're trying to move quickly. So that is it. Be proactive, Arsenal Football Club. Not reactive due to an injury in preseason. Proactive, because we need to get 3 in before the end of July. Don't want to hear anything further. Just so, by the way, we're going to have a crappy group in the Champions League because we're going to be in the third pot. So you could have a situation: Real Madrid, Inter Milan. Where's Inter Milan now in the? I don't even think Inter Milan's going to make the Champions League. So you could have a situation of obviously Napoli is going to win their league. Let's say Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Arsenal. I think that's a possibility. So we need to get our business done in time for September, and then obviously the start of the Premier League and all that goes with that. I'm actually interested to find out, is Arsenal going to play Man City in the Charity Shield if Man City win the FA Cup, or does the Carabao Cup winners play? I think the Carabao Cup winners play the champions. I think so. And then Vincent Company is eyeing up a reunion with Arsenal midfielder Albert Sambi Lokonga. Company, who has been told he will be back in the transfer market by Burnley, believes he can help his former player rediscover his form. Tavares, thank you. Time to go. And Sambi Lokonga. I think Arsenal are looking at, or were looking a couple of seasons ago, 2 seasons ago, when they purchased these guys, to get a decent fee for them if they don't work out. So it's one of those type of players. They're still young. Maybe they will work in another league or under a different system, different manager, and Arsenal will hopefully be able to recoup. I don't think personally Arsenal will recoup more than what we paid for Sambi Lokonga. We might actually lose out a bit there. And then, but it is a long-term contract that is on. So I don't know how that's going to work. and then so 20 million will do it, I think. And then I don't know if Arsenal will get 20 million from Marseille or any other club for Tavares. I don't think so. I think that's what Arsenal are hoping to get. I don't think they will get more than 10 million for Tavares. But just remember, all these players that we're looking to offload are going to be worth something. I think it's only Reece Nelson, that's out of contract. So that is good news for the Arsenal. Right, so let me move on. Obviously, on the podcast, I keep forgetting to say that obviously people cannot see the slides unless they watch this on YouTube. But I think I've actually read out the slides in the news section. But now I've got Emile Smith Rowe looking dejected at the Emirates with Brighton, Hove, and Albion fans celebrating. And then once again, Arsenal losing to Brighton. It's the second time, same like Manchester City, where we got comfortably beaten by the team in the cup. Well, okay, so Arsenal didn't get comfortably beaten in the cup by Man City, but home and away comfortably beaten by City. And then we obviously beat Brighton 4-2 at Brighton's ground. And then now Arsenal losing 3-0 on a Sunday afternoon. Very, very disappointing, gut-wrenching display. I thought it was quite even up, a very sloppy stop-start game in the first half. And then obviously Arsenal were very, very poor after conceding a very soft goal. Kivior had his foot stood on, but that can happen. Obviously, it now happened to Arsenal. But then again, there wasn't a reaction. And Arsenal gave away loads of opportunities as they have been doing the last 10 to 15 games. It's just not the same Arsenal of the back end of 2022. And Arsenal, not so bright. Very disappointing. Disappointing subs. The substitutions or the subs didn't make an impact. Where's Vieira? Why is Smith Rowe not performing? What's happening in training? And all these type of things. Obviously, his confidence is way down. The injury, we thought that the groin surgery was going to help, and it just doesn't seem like it. He doesn't look overweight in the picture here, but is there a weight problem? Is there a issue with his mobility post surgery? Etc. etc. How's his diet? How's his training in terms of physical fitness? Obviously, his cardiovascular fitness will be good. So these are the type of things that we are not privy to. We only see the bits and bits from the game because the likes of Smith Rowe is not actually playing a lot of minutes, and then you've got Vieira that's also not playing a lot. So a lot, yeah. You can analyze each and every player and find out. Well, not find out because you're not going to find out. We don't know the ins and outs. There isn't a documentary to tell us everything. But yeah, I extremely disappointing. But just from a personal perspective, I was extremely flat once I think probably the second Man City goal went in. It was actually quite quickly after the first goal, and I just thought that was probably it for this season. My thinking was not Man City or not playing well or anything. My thinking was because it's in between the Real Madrid game and Man City really wants the Champions League. I know they can handle all these games, but I just thought with Everton beating Brighton 5-1 a couple of days ago, it just so happened that maybe Everton, but they just do not have the quality or the confidence to compete with the Man City. That's something that we knew, but we just thought maybe there's an off day for Man City, and unfortunately, they were brilliant, and all of that then flowed into the ground at the Emirates, and then also the Arsenal performance in the second half. Arteta looking dejected, very frustrated actually in the first half as he tried to get the guys going, and obviously that frustration comes from Arsenal not being able to step on it, and we just weren't able to switch gears. I can't say the Newcastle game took a lot out of us. Obviously, on the day it did, but once again, we had all these days to recover. I'm sure we've had one or two recovery days, and because we are not playing every 3 days like a City. But I just think that it didn't work out for Arsenal. The fact that they wanted to prioritize the Premier League, they didn't play games in between. I don't know if you could have arranged. It probably is not smart to arrange friendlies. That doesn't make sense from a high performance team to arrange friendlies because you're out of competitions. I think we didn't handle it well. Hopefully we get to learn if it is that we are. I don't want to sit here and say that we're not going to compete next season because I'm confident that Arsenal are going to make three big signings. That's what's putting me at ease. However, will that be enough? Will we then do three big signings and two quality squad players, and the likes of Holding and Ketia? They need to go because they're not good enough at the end of the day. I will leave it there. So Arsenal will finish the league second. Personally not going to delve into the Nottingham Forest games. Uh, it's a very, very strong likelihood that I'm not going to bother watching. You can take that whichever way you want. But yeah, the season has taken just about everything out of me. I'm sure it's taken everything out of all the fans as well as the players, obviously, because they really wanted to win the league. But I want us to be refreshed, have quality next season, and stop taking the other competitions lightly because it hasn't worked. We're going to have more games next season, more injuries. We need to have the squad covered. Arsenal ladies, wow, what a finish to the league season. So for those listening, Chelsea are currently top. All the top four teams have all played 20 games. Chelsea 52 points after 20 games, so they're 2 points ahead of Man United, that has 50 points after 20 games, and Arsenal have 47 points after 20 games. There is 22 league games. There's 12 teams. 12 times 2 minus 2 is 12 times 2 minus 2 is 22. So there's two games to go. Chelsea needs 4 points because their goal difference is better than Man United. So Chelsea are playing Arsenal, and then I think they have a very winnable game on the final day of the season. So I think if Chelsea beats Arsenal on Sunday, 1:30, then Chelsea should be champions for the third year in a row. So yeah, once again, unfortunately for Arsenal, all these injuries, three big losses, two losses to, who did they lose to? Yeah, they lost to Man City and they lost twice to Man United, drew with Chelsea. So the second Chelsea game is happening now. Arsenal are 5 points off top. They are highly unlikely going to win this league because they need to score loads of goals, and they need Chelsea to lose both games because Arsenal can only end on 53. Two games to go. They're on 47 points. They need Chelsea to lose both games. That's not going to happen. So I think Chelsea will very likely win the league if they beat Arsenal because Man United are playing Man City. So the key thing here is the top three teams go to the Champions League. I think the second and third team both have to go into qualifying rounds. If you finish third, you have to go into two qualifying rounds, which also means after a World Cup. Remember, the Women's World Cup is in July. So that means you're going to barely have 2 weeks of preseason to prepare for Champions League qualifiers, especially if you finish third, because you've got two qualifying rounds to go into. If you finish second, you're going to one qualifying round. So Arsenal needs, what do they need? Well, Man City are playing Man United. Man City have a winnable final game, so they could end on 50. Arsenal obviously can end on 53. Arsenal's goal difference is 12 clear. I personally think it's going to be a draw, Man United and Man City, and I think Chelsea is going to beat Arsenal. So I think Chelsea will win their last two games. They will finish on 58. I think Man United will finish on 54 and Arsenal on 50, with Man City on 48, I think. So I think Arsenal will just sneak third, and Man United will be second, and Chelsea will win the Women's Super League, just because there's quite a distance between these top four teams and the other teams. So I can't see any of these four teams dropping points next week because they're not playing each other. So I think they'll all four win next week. However, I think Chelsea will win this week, and it will be a draw between United and City, which would then leave the league as Chelsea winners, Man United runner-ups. So they will go into only one round of qualifying for the Women's Champions League, and then Arsenal will finish in that very important third position. Arsenal's got four players that have serious ACL injuries. There's a serious shoulder or knee injury to Leia Valti, so she could also be out for most of preseason. Possibly the World Cup as well. I can't remember. I think Switzerland made the World Cup. So Arsenal are not necessarily going to get all their star players back for the start of the season or even that Champions League qualifiers, which could be tricky. because you could end up playing against the second team in Germany, second or third teams in Germany. You could face the second or third teams in Spain, and in what's the other team? Italy. Well, Italy, not so much. They haven't got that strong of a teams. Juventus and Roma, they are up and coming teams, and then obviously in Spain as well. If I haven't mentioned them, Spain, Holland as well. There's another. So it's not guaranteed that when you go into the group, because Man City got knocked out by Real Madrid in last season's qualifying round. So it's not guaranteed that you are going to go into the Women's Champions League. So all of those things, same like the men, we need to get our transfer business done early, because the season is going to be very quickly upon us. For the ladies more so, they've got a World Cup in between, a very big World Cup, and there's loads of players that's missing that because of the all the football that's been happening. Last year was the Women's Euros, and Arsenal have lost two key players, and England for that matter, because of all the football that's been played. And that's where I leave today's show. So, upcoming shows on Saturday, I record with Josh Off Your Game. It's now a bi weekly show. So, whereby we sit together, we discuss the Premier League, the Champions League, or Europe in general, the European leagues. And I then post that on a Sunday. So this week is the week where we will be doing the show, and then every other week we will be putting on videos, so short videos, just to review the week that was, and then on a Thursday evening I will then be recording the Gunning Truth. I'm not going to call it the Tuesday show anymore, because I am recording it on a Thursday, and I'm obviously broadcasting it on YouTube for video and audio, obviously, and then audio for Spotify and iTunes. So please like, please subscribe. If you've got any comments, you know where to reach me. And then if you can also share, I would really appreciate to make the channel grow, because next season I really want to be a little bit more hands-on with regards to the type of content that I do. And then obviously in the off season, I am planning on doing watch-alongs, but watch-alongs of games of yesteryear, looking at old games. So me and Josh will be looking at old football games as well, and hopefully that will then catch on as well. And then obviously transfer shows. If Arsenal make a new signing, I'll do a specific in-depth video on that player. And there we go. That is today's show. I will leave it there for now. So hopefully Arsenal can get 6 more points out of the next 2 games. That is, at the end of the day, the most important thing for Arsenal, to just end the season off strongly. What will it be? 87 points. That's really not bad. It's a good season, but unfortunately, we will end the season trophyless, and we need to win trophies if we are going to be a big club. But let's take it another step further. We're not going to win the Champions League next season, but let's push. Let's push as far as possible. I would like Arsenal to make the quarterfinals of the Champions League if that's possible. Obviously, we've got a tough group, and we will not be favorites to even go through in the group. Once again, it depends on how we spend. I'm pretty certain the Champions League starts after the transfer window is done. So Arsenal need to get their business done as soon as they possibly can. Up the Arsenal.